time, if you are able, would you please rise for the presentation of a columns by our corporate presidents? Remain standing until after the national anthem.
Will the Cub Scouts and Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, people coming down to do the pledge, allegiance, step down front? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. Please remain standing now for the national anthem.
imagine it'll get a little smoother as we go here. I wanted to welcome all of you for being here today for our annual observance of Veterans Day. This will be the 8th year that I've had the honor to welcome all of you to the program. Each year, I continue to be impressed and thankful for the time, effort, and energy put into this by our staff and students to honor all men and women, both living and dead, who have served in the United States Armed Forces. Together, they create a ceremony that honors our veterans and those who have answered our country's call. This ceremony also serves as a useful educational tool to all our students to help them understand that a life of service and sacrifice for one's country is a very positive and worthy goal for a life. There is a familiar saying, all gave some, and some gave all. What exactly does that mean? I think it means that millions of Americans over the years have recognized that service to one's country and society was something they felt was important to do. They gave up some of their private life for the common good of all. And for that we honor their dedication and devotion today. What about some gave all? What does that mean? Well, it means millions of the millions who have served in the armed forces over the life of the United States, over 1 million of them gave their all. They gave their lives in the service of a cause they believed in, and one that ultimately protected their families and friends at home. And for that, we remember and honor their great sacrifice as well. This program is a somber reminder of the millions of Americans who have fought for freedom and the more than 1 million who have died for that cause. It is also a good time to remind ourselves that we are Americans first, before we are Republicans, Democrats, conservatives, or liberals. You know, time marches on, and I've noticed that the Vietnam War veterans who are my generation are beginning to look a lot like the World War I veterans did when I was a kid sitting here, or in Lake Mills at the time. And the World War II veterans are reminding me of the Spanish-American War veterans that were still there when I was a child. But as time does march on, one of the constants that we as a society enjoy is the honor we place on those men and women who have served in the armed forces, which is taking place today in thousands of cities and villages around the country. President Calvin Coolidge in the 1920s was known as Silent Cal because he didn't say very much. But he was positively profound when he said, "The nation that forgets its defenders will itself be forgotten." Today's program makes clear that in this area, at least, forgetting our defenders will not happen. The veterans we honor here today have shown time and again the truth in the words that freedom is anything but free. Once again, welcome to this Veterans Day observance, and thank you for your participation in honoring those who have served our country. Will the first graders come forward that are going to read, please?
On Veterans Day, we honor all who answer to our service call. Soldiers young and soldiers old fought for freedom, brave and bold. Some have lived while others died, and all of them deserve our credit. We are proud of all the soldiers who kept thinking our red, white, and blue. They fought for us and all our rights. They fought through many days and nights. And though we may not know each name, we thank all veterans just the same.
Will the third graders come up, please?
Freedom in America is a thrill to seize. We often pay a price to keep our liberty. Remember those we love, who fought for us and died, and those we never knew, for whom others mourned and cried. At our home, our war for freedom is sadly overdue. Let's respect them for their courage. They're ready to do what's right, to keep America safe, so we can sleep better at night.
At this time, it's a great honor to introduce to you our guest speaker this morning, Victor Ambrose. He's a retired lieutenant colonel out of the Marine Corps. He had 32 years of service. He enlisted in 1980, graduated from Glidden High School in 1981, reached the rank of sergeant, accepted in a commissioning program in 1985. Graduated from UW-Madison in 1989 with a bachelor's degree in civil environmental engineering. He flew the CH-46 helicopters during his time, deployed twice in Iraq. He's currently living in Park Falls, married 36 years to his high school sweetheart. He has 2 grandsons and 2 grandkids, and also serves on the Chequamegon School Board. Please give Mr. Victor Ambrose a warm applause.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to say a few words on this important day. And thank you to the teachers and staff and students who make this day very meaningful. Tomorrow, November 11th, is Veterans Day. A day to thank a veteran, but not to be confused with Memorial Day. Unlike Memorial Day, Veterans Day is a federal holiday to honor, show appreciation, and pay tribute to all American veterans, living or deceased, who have served in the military both in war and in peace. Memorial Day is set aside to show gratitude, commemorate and honor military personnel who died in service, especially related to battle. A little history review. Today, November 10th, is the Marine Corps' 242nd birthday. Established in 1775, as legend has it, at Tun Tavern in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, the United States Marine Corps, a naval service, has been in nearly every conflict since the founding of this great nation. Happy birthday, Marines. Veterans Day originated as Armistice Day on the 11th hour, the 11th day, the 11th month in 1918, when an armistice or a ceasefire was declared between Germany and the Allied forces during World War I, ending hostilities and eventually the war. The United States was a newcomer to the world powers at that time. In 1954, Congress officially passed and President Eisenhower signed a bill proclaiming November 11th as Veterans Day. To get a teacher-approved stamp of approval for this presentation, where we are always striving to learn something new and interesting, I'd like to share some information I found while researching and preparing for today concerning the history of our country. Credit, of course, goes to history.com, the U.S. Census Bureau website, and various Marine Corps historical documents. There have been 12 major wars in our country's history. The Revolutionary War, the War of 1812, the Mexican-American War, the Civil War, the Spanish-American War, World War I, World War II, the Korean War, Vietnam War, the Afghanistan War, and the Iraq War. Did you know that 26 of the 44 presidents were veterans? Or that the Revolutionary War produced 4 presidents: Washington, Madison, Monroe, and Jackson. No fewer than 7 presidents were Civil War veterans. I like this one. Of the 330 astronauts, current and former, 219 were veterans. Here are some facts about the veteran population in the U.S. today. Only 6.5 of the total U.S. population are veterans. 1% women, 12% men. There are 21.8 million total veterans, 1.6 million women, 20.6 million men. 16.1 million living veterans served during at least one war. 5 million served in peacetime. Of the 16 plus million Americans who served during World War II, approximately 558,000 are still alive. 2 million served during the Korean War, 7 million during the Vietnam War, 5.5 million served during the Persian Gulf War, 2.5 million deployed in Afghanistan and Iraq. I know those numbers are pretty big and hard to imagine, yet each person who served or served has a story and a unique experience worth listening to, whether the veteran knows it or not. If you didn't catch it, 1% of the population are women, veterans, 12% of the population are men. That's not a great or large portion of the public who choose to serve. Of course, not all those numbers saw direct combat or engaged the enemy in a firefight. Many duties were in necessary and critical support roles. I was somewhat surprised to realize the significant loss of the World War II veterans. I know that when I was growing up, I had the honor to have contact with several close personal relatives and acquaintances who had served during World War II, Korea, or Vietnam. I can say their influence, example, and expectations have molded me to who I am today. For the veterans out there, take the time to talk to the young kids, no matter how old, and the parents as well. You have a unique story to share. Seeing the numbers decrease dramatically for the World War II veterans is heartbreaking. We need to absorb the last messages they have to share. Our future is in our youth. So where to start? Here's an idea. Challenge the young ones to increase their vocabulary, defining words like integrity, discipline, unselfishness, loyalty, duty, sacrifice, accountability, responsibility, fortitude, fairness, tact, respect, honor, courage, commitment. That list goes on. Or share with them and describe the places you have visited, experiences you have had, people you have met. We're all teachers, and we're all recruiters, veteran or not. Earlier we said the Pledge of Allegiance. It is a pledge. What is a pledge? A pledge is a solemn or serious promise. It is also defined as something given as a confirmation to a contract or a payment of a debt. What we say matters and is important to what we do. Oaths and pledges are important. They remind us what is expected of us. Our word is our bond. Next time you say it, think of the words that are said. What does it mean to you? When I hear and say the Pledge of Allegiance, it reminds me of the oath of office I took as a commissioned officer, which all officers of the armed services take upon appointment. Listen for some key words, phrases, and similar themes. I, Victor Ambrose, do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that I take this obligation freely, without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office in which I'm about to enter. So help me God. We don't always hear that as a citizen. That's the oath of a commissioned officer. Today is a day to embrace and focus our attention on the important purpose of Veterans Day. It is a celebration to honor all American veterans for their patriotism, love of country, willingness to serve and sacrifice for the common good. They have set the example for us to stand firm in fulfilling an oath, endure with fortitude and courage, agree to stay united against the common enemy, and to support the idea of an indivisible republic, a constitutional government by the people, demanding justice and liberty just like we do when we say the Pledge of Allegiance. So thank you, military men and women who have served in our armed forces, soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and Coast Guardians. I am proud to be considered one of them. Thank you. Now I have 3 high school students that would like to share with us what the Pledge of Allegiance means to them. So I make sure this works okay.
Good morning, and thank you all for attending the Chequamegon 2017 Veterans Day program. In anticipation of this Veterans Day, my peers Gabe Anderson, Joseph Wagner, and I began talking about different aspects of Veterans Day. And our conversation eventually ended up on the topic of the Pledge of Allegiance. More specifically, our individual beliefs about what the Pledge of Allegiance truly means to us. What we discovered is that the 3 of us share many of the same fundamental beliefs about what the true message and tradition of reciting the Pledge of Allegiance represents. As students at Chequamegon High School, each morning we stand, raise our hands to our hearts, recite the Pledge of Allegiance, and sit back down to resume class. We as students have practiced this long tradition since we were little kids in Chequamegon Elementary School, like those in attendance with us this morning. We as a nation have recognized this long-standing tradition since 1954 after Congress altered it to mirror American ideals. So for almost all of us in attendance this morning, our pledge has been a routine part of the beginning of each weekday for us. Yet few have probably taken the time to think about the significance of this practice or the message within the pledge itself. For those of us which the pledge has not simply become a reflexive expectation, there is no disputing that the pledge holds quite different meanings for many Americans today. Perhaps this vastness existing between meanings of the pledge is driven by the ease at which most of us detach from American history, our nation's past struggles for freedom, or our current challenges to guarantee those same liberties and justices assured within the pledge. Or maybe this detachment stems from us never having been fully informed as to why we begin this tradition as elementary students, or why our community continues to consider it such an important gesture. Despite what many still consider to be a habitual and repetitive procedure, the question remains the same for myself and others like me. Why do we pledge our allegiance to the United States flag each morning to begin a school day? Although there are many potential reasons today, I will be presenting the reasons why we feel it is important that we recite the pledge, and why this small act continues to mean so much. There has been times in all of our lives when we have taken for granted the freedoms and ideals expressed within the pledge, with the emotions of stress, joy, anger, and countless others that have often consumed us on a daily basis. We tend to forget about things like the privileges all of us are afforded as Americans. Reciting the Pledge of Allegiance reminds us what it means to be an American and serves as a reminder not to take what we hold dear for granted, our freedoms. The freedom to practice or not to practice a religion. The freedom to secure our possessions and property. The freedoms of a fair and just legal system. And the freedom to elect and question those governing a representative republic. Another reason we recite the pledge is to provide unity for the citizens of the United States, regardless of ethnicity, race, beliefs, or places of origin. It reminds us that no matter how different we appear to be, we are all still united under common American ideals. The most important of these ideals are expressed within the pledge itself. One nation, under God, with liberty and justice for all. This line symbolizes not only the freedom and equality that every American shares, but also the foundation upon which our nation's prosperity rests. It's the reason that our country can endure a nation-changing civil rights movement, can endure through debated and divisive wars, can endure during times of national emergency, and can endure through the most polarizing changes in leadership, all of which continue to grow stronger. The pledge continues to remind us that regardless of the severity of struggle, as Americans we will remain unified and truly one nation. For us, the first thing we tend to think of when we hear the announcement to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance are the soldiers and veterans who have and continue to serve our nation. For us, the pledge is inseparable from the sacrifices endured by these heroes, but it has become an afterthought when it comes to our endless freedoms as Americans. Far too often it seems the pledge, the Star-Spangled Banner, and the flag itself end up being seen as political tools rather than symbols of patriotism, freedom, and equality that they were intended to represent. For us, this simple practice every morning serves as a reminder that regardless of political or social grievances, ideals of freedom and equality continues to bind us. From paths in Lexington and Concord to trenches in the French countryside, from beaches in Normandy to jungles of East Asia, to the sands of the Persian Gulf, the sacrifices of generations of American veterans, as well as the American commitment to freedom and equality is embodied within our pledge. There may be no universally held consensus as to why we recite the Pledge of Allegiance. However, for us and millions of Americans like us, the reminders of not taking freedoms for granted, the respect earned by our veterans, and the national unity needed to secure the world's oldest living constitutional democracy serves as the greatest reminders of why we recite the Pledge of Allegiance. To all of us gathered here this morning, we ask you to remember those who have served, continue to serve, or have given the ultimate sacrifice on behalf of the people and the nation for which the Pledge of Allegiance exemplifies. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, we're going to salute our armed forces. Band will play an armed forces salute, and I ask each of as your service branch is recognized, the song is played, to come up to the front and line up here, please. Thank you.
We salute the men and women who are veterans of the United States Army. We salute the men and women who are veterans of the United States Marines. the United States Navy. Thank you, veterans, for your service to our country during war and peacetime. We owe you our deepest gratitude. I would also like to acknowledge all the members of the American Legion Auxiliary, if they could stand and take a round of applause for all they do to support our veterans.
The fifth grade learns about Veterans Day through a creative essay titled What Veterans Day Means to Me. This year, selected essay readers are Reagan Hoffman, Ani Brenville, and Maya Shimon. You girls come up, please.
Veterans Day is the day we honor veterans. A veteran is someone who has served in the armed forces. We should honor veterans because they served for our country and fight for each other. People can celebrate Veterans Day by having assemblies, parades, volunteering, and by doing many more things. Veterans Day was founded on November 11, 1919, on the first anniversary of when World War I ended. The original name of Veterans Day was Armistice Day to honor World War I. Veterans Day is celebrated on November 11 because it is the anniversary of the end of World War I. Dwight D. Eisenhower changed the name to honor everyone who served in the armed forces. Veterans Day means a lot to me because people sacrifice their lives for our country. A couple of my relatives served in the armed forces. Veterans Day is also important because a lot of people overcome their fears to fight for our country. Also, Veterans Day is important because people fought for our country. Veterans Day is about honoring people who served in the armed forces. It is important to honor because people left to fight for our country not knowing if they would come back. We should celebrate it each year to honor people who are fighting or have fought for our country. Veterans Day is a day to honor and remember all of America's veterans who have served for our country. A veteran is a person who served for not just this state, but for our country, America. We should always remember and honor the ones who have fallen as they served for our country on this day. Veterans Day has an interesting history. It was first founded in 1919 on the one-year anniversary of the end of World War I. It was once known as Armistice Day to honor these veterans of World War I. In 1954, President Dwight D. Eisenhower changed it to Veterans Day. Now we honor all veterans on Veterans Day. Veterans Day is important to me because I have many family members who have served in the armed forces. From my grandparents to most recently my brother Jacob. The most important member I get to call my dad. One day I sat down and asked my dad what it means to him to be a veteran. My dad said, "It is having the honor and privilege to serve my country." My dad has told me many stories about his military career. One story in particular was about when he and his fellow airmen were preparing to go to Desert Shield Desert Storm. While preparing to go to war, they were also fighting the terrorism in the Philippines. After Desert Storm, while in the Philippines at Clark Air Base, he was part of Operation Fiery Vigil, the evacuation of non-essential personnel due to the imminent eruption of Mount Pinatubo. On June 15, 1991, Clark Air Base was totally evacuated due to the major eruption. Over my dad's career, he has served on many deployments, from humanitarian missions to flyaway security to combat missions. They all served a purpose in protecting our country's freedom. Whether he protected our nation's most deadliest weapons, aircraft, or his current base, his top priority was taking care of the Air Force's most ultimate resource, his airmen. Even now, my dad still keeps in contact with many of the airmen he has served with. My father retired after 24 years of faithful service to his country. I once saw a t-shirt that summed up how I feel about my dad. It said, "Most people wait a lifetime to meet their hero, but I am being raised by mine. Thank you, Dad." Veterans Day is about being thankful for our veterans who have served. We honor these men and women on Veterans Day so that we remember what they did for America. We should always celebrate Veterans Day to remember those who have passed and those who haven't. To this day, they have sacrificed their lives for our freedom and for the opportunity to change the world. Thank you, veterans, for your service. What Veterans Day means to me. Veterans Day is a day where we honor veterans. A veteran is a person who served in the armed forces. Veterans risk their lives for our freedom and our country. We can celebrate Veterans Day by having an assembly, parade, visiting a veteran in a center, or by talking to them and thanking them. Veterans Day was funded November 11, 1919, on the first anniversary of World War I. Armistice Day was what Veterans Day was originally called. It was called Armistice Day to mark the armistice between Germany and the Allies. Veterans Day is celebrated on November 11th because it's the anniversary of the signing of the armistice which ended World War I. President Dwight D. Eisenhower changed the name of Armistice Day to honor all veterans. Veterans Day means a lot to me because many people sacrificed so many things for us and our country. My two aunts were in the Navy and my friend's mom was in the Army. My Aunt Holly served in the Navy from 1985 to 1995. She was a machinery repair ES. She spent 5 years on the USS Yellowstone AD-41. She was in the Great Lakes Service School Command for 5 years. She was also a locksmith for 43 buildings and ran a locksmith and an engraving shop. She was also a company commander for 18 months, the only female company commander at Great Lakes. She did 3 tours in Europe and the Middle East. Veterans Day is about honoring and celebrating all veterans. It's an important day to honor these people because they risk their lives for us and our country. We should continue celebrating Veterans Day each year because people are still in the armed forces. Some people are fighting for us right now.
Thank you, girls. Great job. Each year, the veterans that have passed away during the last year are given special recognition during this program. Read the names of those who we have lost in the last year.
Art Fritzl, Dennis Wayne Endrell, Robert J. Bradle, William A. Benson,
Robert Bob Anthony Galinsky, Leonard R. Stuckey, Eddie Ray Kleinschmidt, Irvin R. Foltinsky,
Robert A. Phillips, Alan L. Fox, Carl P. Mackey, Jim Van Camp,
Clifford Wiltuck, Bruce Gold,
Ronald J. Shook, Ray Burgess,
We'll recognize a moment of silence followed by the playing of taps. Thank you.
Get pumped, son.
This video ago, now he's here.
I think of people who
Thank you, elementary students. Great job. This time, the Chequamegon Middle School students would like to present gifts to our veterans.
At this time, Chequamegon Middle School would like to present each veteran with a blessing. Each ingredient carries a symbolic meaning.
You rose for the call answered by brave veterans to defend our country and freedom.
Pretzels, for preparers of freedom fought by those who founded our country.
Nuts and seeds for the promise of a future nation veterans gave us.
Dried fruits and candy corn, for the harvest gifts of our bountiful land that veterans protected.
M&Ms for the memories of those who fought and are no longer with us.
Hershey Kiss, for the endless love of family and friends for our veterans.
Peppermint candy for the red and white stripes on our flag that our veterans fought graciously for.
Lifesavers, for the countless lives saved veterans have saved.
Veterans who are able, please stand to receive your gift from an 8th grade student.
Have your attention. At this time, I'd like to ask Kinsey Dane, Jacob Beats, and Michael Pepper to step down in front of here. The reason why I'm having these three students step down here, they are going into a branch of the service. I don't know which one, but I want to give them a round of applause that they're going out to serve our country. thank you again. Okay, at this time, if you are able to rise, we are going to have the dismissal of the colors. So the color guard commander,
Thank you for coming to this Veterans Day ceremony. Thank you to the band, choir, and participating students. And finally, thank you, veterans. We are here because of you, so please join the National Honor Society for coffee and some snacks after the ceremony. At this point, I'm going to ask for dismissal. I'd like to ask the middle school and the Glidden elementary students just remain